Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Please go and hit the subscribe button. I've lost a couple of subscribers recently for some reason, so my numbers have gone down. It's a bit depressing. So, yeah, if you're not subscribed, please just hit the subscribe button, help me out. Anyway, welcome back to the channel. Today's deck tech is going to be going back to Kamigawa Neon Dynasty. It's a card that recently turned up on the list of things I was looking for, and I got an alert to say there's one available. So, I went and got it. And then I tried to build it, and yeah, tried to go a different way with it. There's some of it is there, but I've tried to do something a little bit different with this one because this is a commander from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty that has always seemed to be a lot of equipment around it, and I've really tried to stay away from it as much as possible. So you've probably worked out what the card is by now, but you might not done. But anyway, the card is, which I hope I'm going to pronounce right, Chishiro the Shattered Blade, a 2 green and red card for a 4/4 legendary snake samurai. That's pretty good, like that plan. That's right to start with, but it has a nice ability. Whenever an aura or equipment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 2/2 red spirit creature token with menace. So it's going to make you some unblockable creatures. Well, hard to block creatures, not unblockable, hard to block creatures. And then at the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each modified creature you control. Now, the few times I've seen Chishiro being played, it's been in a green-red equipment deck. With the usual selection of swords that you've seen on the channel before. Go and have a look at the Balan Wandering Knight deck tech that's down below on the channel somewhere if you haven't seen it. And yeah, lots of equipment. But I was really intrigued by this. I thought I want to try and do something different with my version of Chishiro. So I decided to go down the aura route. And this is what I've come up with. Anyway, so let's talk about this. Now, I'm not saying it's completely equipment free. There is equipment in here, but I've tried to keep it down to the things I think are really key to make the deck work. You can't see all the ones on the 3-drop at the moment. They are some of the ones down the bottom here. There we go. But I will go through them in a second. But as usual, what I have tried to do is go down more this route with the auras. So you can see some of them in the screen up here at the moment. But we'll go through them and have a chat about them. So let's start like we usually do on one of my deck techs with the mana base and the ramping side of things. Lots of green-red lands, as you can imagine. Quite a few basic forests, quite a few basic mountains. Lots of dual lands. Reliquary Towers in, Temple of the False Gods in. We didn't go down the other route of having the Field of the Dead in. I just kept it to Fable Passage for this one. I chucked in Cliffgate because I had one. I thought it'd be quite nice. Likewise, a little bit further down, I've also chucked in Nykthos. Now, Nykthos Shrine to Nyx is one of those cards that I usually say, I only ever play it in a mono deck. I've tried it out in this deck. It actually works really quite well in this 2-colour deck. Now, are you going to see Nykthos going forward in my 2-colour decks? Maybe, maybe not. But in today's one, it is here. And it does have some real upsides in this deck. So, there you go. Ugh. Sorry, bit of a late night for me last night. But yeah, the other one I want to point out, Yavimar, Cradle of Growth's in as well. So, going back to Chishiro, we want to get our creatures modified. We want to be able to do this. And I'm really trying to do this very hard with auras instead of the usual selection of equipment you'll see in this deck. Now, like I say, there is some of the equipment in here, but there's a lot more auras in this deck than there is equipment. So let's go through some of the cards and just point out what we've got. Just before we do that, we've got the ramp side of thing. We've only got Elixir of Immortality. Well, we haven't got that. We've got Arcane Signet. That's basically the ramp I went with for this deck, but you'll see why in a second, because even though it's quite easy to kill, we do have a lot of ramp because we have Birds of Paradise, Elvish Mystic, Fine-Loin Elves, Landwire Elves are in the deck. And then obviously we've got all of the auras that come into play and do extra things with land. So, you know, but we'll go back to them in a minute. We have got Hardened Scales in here. We've got quite a few ways of putting +1/+1 counters on creatures. So I've gone with Hardened Scales. Keen Sense is the first aura. Get some damage in with a creature. Draw a card. Thank you. Rancor, because if we're going to play auras, you've got to play the ultimate green aura, and I love this card. Apologies if you wonder why I paused there. For some reason, this was coming up black. It's green. I've just gone and changed my settings. OBS did an update. Apologies. Anyway, going back to the deck. Yeah, so we've got Rancoring, because as far as I'm concerned, that is the green enchantment aura card. 6th is in as well, so we can also do the card draw with this. And then the first one of the other auras we're going to put on lands is Utopia Sprawl, because, you know, we're going to play this, choose red, have both our lands coming in, you know, having our land come in and produce both colours. It's a red deck, Dockside's here, sorry, but we do need a few creatures. You know, we haven't gone that heavy on the creatures, you can see. We've got 36 lands, 25 creatures, 39 others. Dockside's going to be quite a key source, get some treasure. Rune of Speed is an aura, which is lovely. Obviously goes on a creature, play it when we got this in play. Hey, look, we get another 2/2 red spirit creature. You get the drift. Gala's Greeters just helps with the treasure tokens when we play creatures, which we will be. Lotus Cobra produces extra mana when we drop a land. Next one, Ordeal of Nylea. Yes, this is a bit awkward because we put the +1/+1 counters, but we keep the +1/+1 counters so the creatures stay modified, so they get bigger with Chishiro. And we do get to sack it off to go and get 2 basic lands and put them onto battlefield tap, so that's pretty cool. Runemite for a bit of trampling, fun and games. Utopia Sprawl draws a card when it comes into play and then gives our land that we put it on the City of Brass ability, for want of a better phrase. Arcane Signet, as I said earlier, and Swiftfoot Boots, because I want to be able to protect Chishiro when we get there. And if we get Swiftfoot on here, this becomes 5/5 at the end of our turn, which is quite nice. The first bit of true equipment, the Reaver Cleaver, just because we need the treasure tokens, and this gives something trample, and it's quite nice. 3 mana to play, 3 mana to equip. Cartouche Strength does the nice little fight thing. You don't have to fight the thing, but you can just get the +1/+1 on the trample. Curse of Predation comes in. When it attacks, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on it, so, you know, doubles up the counters. Elvish Rejuvenator to go and find some land. Fertilid is automatically modified when it comes into play because of the +1/+1 counters, so that's pretty cool. Fight Rigging makes everything modified. You can just chuck the +1/+1 counters around. Yeah, you may want to get up to the 7 at some stage if you've hidden away something that's really good, but 9 times out of 10 you're just going to be modifying creatures quite happily. Gift of Paradise, an aura, bit of land, nice little bit of rampage. Nice, thank you. Growing Rights, just so we can ramp up. I could have played, you know, I was trying to build this more for real life than I was to play on Arena. Nope, MTGO I'm on. If I was playing this more competitively on MTGO, I would have my Gaia's Cradle in here to help the mana ramp, but I just went with Growing Rights, so, you know, if people are building it in real life, it's a little bit more reasonable. Marwyn the Nurturer, another elf comes into play. If you can play sort of like turn 1 Mystic, turn 2 Marwyn, turn 3 another elf, you're going to be away, aren't you? So, you know, and that becomes modified, and it really does ramp up your green mana when you get Chizzy in play as well. New Horizons modifies a creature for you, as well as doing some nice mana rampage. Numa Jorga Chieftain. I forgot about this card, but it's a nice way of making all the elves we've got in our deck get bigger at the beginning of our upkeep, so we can just sink our mana into it, which is great. Retreat Kadzadana chucks a +1/+1 counter around. Savage Stomp, +1/+1 and a fight. Sheltered Airy, just for the mana, and it's an aura. Wood Elves goes finds us a forest. Archdruid of Elvish Archdruid pumps our elves, adds some mana. Nissa, Voice of Zendikar, I forgot, chucked around +1/+1 counters for the -2. It also kind of protects itself with a 0/1 plant creature. Notice the plant creatures this creates hasn't got defenders. You can actually attack with them. So if you can modify one and get a few +1/+1 counters on it, you get a nice free little way of doing things. Circle of Dreams Druid just for the ramp. And Grumgully the Generous is probably one of the key cards in the deck. Most of the creatures in the deck are non-human, so as you play those non-human creatures, they're going to come in with +1/+1 and be auto-modified, which means they get even bigger at the end of their turn. Rhythm of the Wild to either do the haste or the +1/+1 counter. Obviously, more for this deck, it's probably going to be more the +1/+1 counter than anything else, so bear that in mind. The few remaining bits of equipment, I just went with some of the things that may protect us. So the Sword of Feast and Famine, Fire and Ice, Light and Shadow, Truth and Justice. They're the ones I just decided to go with. I could, as you know, if you've gone and watched the Balan deck, which I hope deck take, that I hope you haven't while you've been watching this one. I've got all the swords on MTGO, but I just went with these few. Chain Reaction for a bit of removal along with Blasphemous Act, just so you know they're both in here, because I always get asked if I'm playing a red deck if they're in. They're a bit like, you know, Dockside. Red deck, Dockside, Chain, Blasphemous, end of. Mantle of the Wolf is another aura, which is quite nice, because when it actually, if the creature gets killed off that it's attached to, you do get another couple of creatures coming into play, so I can't complain at that. One with the Kami is a card I forgot about even existing from the same set as Chishiro. It's got flash, so, you know, if someone wraths a board, you can flash it in, put it on the biggest creature, they'll then die, and then you'll get all those lovely little 1/1 colourless spirit creature tokens. Yeah, so, you know, make sure you do put it on a modified creature, though. Okay. Where were we? Oracle of Mildai, just so we can ramp up a little bit more. Pattern of Rebirth is obviously one of the key enchantments in green as well. There is, you know, arguments. I'm sure people will be saying, oh, you can't say Rancord's the best one. Yeah, fine. Pattern of Rebirth is really good, but it does mean you go and search for it and then put that creature into play. So it does have its upsides, it does have its downsides, but, you know, if our auras die, we do have Elixir to get them all back. Rampant Rejuvenate is another one that comes into play already modified because of the +1/+1. Leyline of Abundance, just so we can chuck +1/+1 counters around if we get to that point where we've got a whole load of mana and nothing to do with it. Domri Chaos Bringer gives everything right, so that's quite nice, hence why this Planeswalker's here. Likewise, the Grand Warlord Rada comes in, purely because I wanted some way of ramping mana if I needed to, and this seemed like a good way of doing it. Halana and Alina, the partners, are in. Now, these are humans, obviously they don't benefit from Grimmy, but, you know, they do chuck around +1/+1 counters at the beginning of combat, so that does modify your creatures, which helps with Chizzy, so, you know, it's all good. Defiler of Vigor is probably going to be one of the key cards in Chizora going forward. Just the ability to pay 2 life and put a +1/+1 counter on a green whenever you cast a green permanent spell is fantastic. Oh, sorry, I'm yawning again. Apologies. But, you know, cast those green creature spells, put the +1/+1 counters around. You're getting your creatures modified automatically. Seedborn Muse, just so we can keep attacking and untap everything, which is very nice. Verdurous Gearhulk chucks a whole load of 4 +1/+1 counters around if we needed to. Or at the end of the day, it becomes an 8/8 with Trample. So, hey, great from that point of view. Next bit of equipment is just Meteoric Mace. It doesn't do anything fancy, but it does have Cascade, which means if we can hit something from down here, all the better for us. Primeval Bounties in, just because we do cast non-creature spells, that puts +1/+1 counters around, and it gives us a little bit of life gain. And obviously, if we cast a creature, we get a beast, so we're not going to complain about it. Vigor's in, because, yeah, Vigor's probably one of the better green creatures, I think, printed. If you can keep it in play and it doesn't get exiled, you're just going to have all that damage prevented, and those creatures are going to get massive make very, very quickly. But that's why we have Tiana. The other one we have that chucks a lot +1/+1 counters around is Tiania's Command. I'll get it right one day. Yeah, okay, exiling a player's graveyard may help, but you're mainly going to do the last two on here with this. Create 2/2 green bear creature tokens, and then chuck some +1/+1 counters around. That is what's going to happen. Avenger Ascended cards here, because why wouldn't you? Yeah. Blastmax, I mentioned. The Great Henge automatically modifies creatures once you get it in play, and it's not too difficult to get this into play for 2 green mana. I've cast it a few times when I've been play testing this deck and got it to cast mana value down to 3 to play. And then obviously after that, it just really does dominate to a certain degree. And then the final one. I might have fallen in love with Apex Devastator. I'm really sorry, everybody. Green decks for a while, you're going to see this carding because I love it. That quadruple cascade ability when you play it just makes this deck so well. And it really does help get some of the other things into play that we really want to happen. So, here we go. That's my take on Chishiro, the Shattered Blade. Like I said, I'm sorry about the slight colour tinting at the beginning. I hadn't realised until I looked at the other screen, and I'm sorry about me yawning all the way through it. Like I say, I had a bit of a late night last night. I wanted to get these videos done today. So, hey, enjoy this one. I really hope you've hit the like button. I hope you've hit the subscribe button. Leave me a comment. People who do tend to comment tend to get me to reply to them. So, usually, bear in mind, though, that these go up at midnight UK time. So, if you're in America, if you're the other side of the pond, or South America or that side. It may be a little bit later in the day when you get a comment, because I tend to do it on my lunch break at work, so usually about a 12-hour gap between me replying to comments, unless it's the weekend, so bear that in mind. But leave me comments, let me know what you think I've missed out from this deck down below. Make sure you've hit the subscribe button, and please check back again for some more deck techs that are coming up this week. Take care, I'll see you all soon. I'm out of here. Bye.